eye and severed his femoral artery, causing him to bleed out. Then came the most spectacular moment of the shootout, as Ned Kelly emerged out of the dark mist, clad in armor and guns blazing. The sight made the police think that they were fighting the devil.
This is cool. My boy said, oh, nah, that's cool. Nah, this is crazy. Bro, if there's a movie on this, bro, somebody in the comment let me know, bro.
3, 2, 1.
It's your boy Vic, man. I'm back with another video, man. I hope everybody doing good today, man, because I'm doing wonderful. I'm reacting to Ned Kelly, man, Australia's most famous outlaw. I heard he was a bad dude, man, a bad dude. Well, some people say he was bad, and some say he's good. I don't know. I'm about to find out. I don't want to waste no time talking. I'm going to get right into this video, man. But first thing first, man, show your boy some love. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel, man. Help grow the channel, man. Please, please, please. Let's hit 100K by the end of the year. I don't know if we can, but, hey, I'm hoping. I'm hoping we can, bro. I'm just hoping we can. You know, let's go, man. Let's go. Here we go. Ned Kelly, Australia's most famous outlaw. Boom.
There are probably few people covered here at Biographics who are more divisive than Ned Kelly, Australia's most famous outlaw and
Let's start this back.
There are probably few people covered here at Biographics who are more divisive than Ned Kelly, Australia's most famous outlaw and bushranger. He is primarily remembered for his final showdown with the police, where Ned and his men wore homemade armor. To some people, he is a folk hero, a working-class revolutionary who took a stand against British colonial authority. To others, he's simply a cold-blooded villain who has been undeservedly mythologized and morphed into a sort of Robin Hood of Australia. We'll let you hear his story and form your own opinion, but there is one thing for certain. For better or worse, Ned Kelly has become one of Australia's greatest cultural icons.
Greatest? Is that so?
Edward Ned Kelly was born in Beveridge, Victoria, which back then was still a colony of the British Crown. His date of birth is unknown, but it's generally believed to be either December 1854 or June 1855. His father was John Kelly, also known as Red, an Irish criminal who was transported to Australia in his early 20s for stealing pigs. He served his time on Van Diemen's.
What the? Bro, all he stole was pigs. Like, what? That's crazy, bro. Hey.
Better known today as Tasmania, and afterwards, like many other convicts, he chose to remain in Australia and make a new life for himself instead of returning home. Red worked various odd jobs, which included being a farmhand for the Quinn family, a group of Irish immigrants who settled near Melbourne. There, he met 18-year-old Ellen Quinn, and the two married in 1850. This was around the time that Australia became gripped with gold fever, and many men tried their luck at prospecting. John Kelly was among them, and while he didn't exactly strike it rich, he made enough for him and Ellen to buy a farm of their own in a developing town called Beveridge. They had 8 children together, with Ned being the oldest son. He was named after John's closest brother, Edward, and according to family tradition, he came into the world with the Eureka Rebellion, a conflict between prospectors and colonial forces, which occurred in late 1854. Quite fittingly, Ned Kelly would go on to develop an aversion to authority all his life, particularly to the police. The family hoped as Beveridge grew, so would their fortunes, but this didn't happen. The main road to Beveridge was very treacherous, and alternative routes that bypassed the town completely became the standard roads for travel. The family farm did not flourish, and the Kellys lost money, and John started drinking. Things got so bad that eventually they had to sell the farm and move to another town called Avenel during the mid-1860s. There, Ned Kelly is still remembered by many as a hero even today, particularly for an incident when he was just 10 years old and he saved the life of a younger boy who was drowning. For this, he was rewarded with a green sash made out of fine silk. It became one of Ned's most treasured possessions, and he even wore it under his clothes during his final confrontation with the police. After first arriving in Australia and serving his time, John Kelly tried hard to walk the straight and narrow and avoid any more legal troubles, but temptation got the best of him in 1865 when his family was struggling for food. A calf wandered onto his land. Even though it was branded as belonging to one Philip Morgan, John killed and butchered it for meat. He was caught and...
Hold on, bro. How is that his fault? It came onto his land. So it became his property, bro. Hey, I'm just saying, bro. I'm just saying. If a dog, a cow, or something enter into my house, it's mine now. Bro, it's mine now, bro. You are mine, bro. I don't care, bro. You are mine. I do not care. Yes, I said it. It's mine.
With cattle stealing and had to do 6 months of hard labor. The work plus the drinking took their toll on John's health. He died in December 1866, leaving the 12-year-old Ned as the new man of the family.
And he was
If
on
a
the
man
12.
really hated ads,
That's
here's
crazy,
what he would do.
man.
Day one, he would install Pi on his computer without spending a dime because it's 100%
family.
Damn, bro. He lost his father at 12 years old, bro. Imagine how bad that is. At 12, that's crazy.
A few years later, the Kelly family had to move again, this time to a stretch of uncultivated farmland outside the town of Greta. There, they reunited with a lot of relatives, as Ellen's parents and sisters, along with their own families, had relocated to the area. Wherever they went, the Quinns developed a reputation for not being the most law-abiding people in the world, and often were accused of cattle and horse stealing. Ned began spending a lot of time with his uncles, who undoubtedly influenced his developing behavior.
I mean, his dad is a convict for stealing pigs in Ireland. And that's why he ended up in Australia in the first place. So it's in the blood. It's in the family, man. Hey, cat is still...
But the defining moment came in 1869 when the 14-year-old Kelly met Harry Power. Power, real name Henry Johnson, was a well-known bushranger. Originally, bushrangers were escaped convicts who used the Australian wilderness as a hideout, but it later came to refer to all criminals who hid in the bush. They were undoubtedly criminals who committed robberies and even murders, but they still had their fair share of sympathizers. Ned Kelly aside, quite a few others became regarded as folk heroes who stood up to authority, similar to the outlaws of the American West. Harry Power was one such example, and the Kellys were his sympathizers. Ned, in particular, took an instant liking not only to Power, but to the lifestyle itself. He became the bushranger's protege, helping him steal horses and commit robberies. Unsurprisingly, Ned's first brush with the law occurred at this time when he stood accused of assaulting and robbing a Chinese merchant. Ned was arrested when he was 15, but his sister and two family friends testified that it was, in fact, the merchant who instigated the assault. As the latter had no witnesses on his side, police had no choice but to let Ned Kelly go. He was later again arrested as an accomplice in several robberies committed by Power, but none of the victims could positively identify him. Ned's association with Harry Power ended
that F-15 is crazy, bro.
when the latter was caught and arrested. However, his influence on his young protege was too much to overcome, and Ned Kelly had already built a reputation as a local hoodlum. A newspaper called the Benalla Ensign wrote about their relationship, saying that the effect of Power's example has already been to draw one young fellow into the open vortex of crime, and unless his career is speedily cut short, young Kelly will blossom into a declared enemy of society.
Sure did.
That
Life
is
is
pretty
fine.
much what happens. From that point on,
Right.
Ned Kelly always stayed on the wrong side of the law. Just a few months after Power's arrest, Ned was taken into custody for assaulting a hawker named Jeremiah McCormack. This time, he was found guilty and sentenced to 6 months of hard.
Hold on, y'all. Can we take a moment to appreciate how well this man storytelling is? Bro, oh my God. I can listen to this guy all night long and just sleep, bro. Cause his voice, like how he explained and stuff, is just so clean. Oh my God. No gay stuff. No gay
stuff. He only
stuff.
enjoyed a few weeks of freedom.
No gay stuff, y'all. I'm just saying. I'm just being
Jeremiah
honest.
McCormack. This time, he was found guilty and sentenced to 6 months of hard labor. He was released early, but only enjoyed a few weeks of freedom before being incarcerated once more for horse theft. This charge was later downgraded to feloniously receiving a horse, but Kelly still got 3 years in prison.
3
When he was
years?
released, Kelly went back to stealing livestock, this time accompanied by his younger brother, Dan
It's in the
Kelly.
blood, man.
Later, they would go on to form the Kelly Gang, whose other main members included Steve Hart and John Byrne. Another defining moment in the life of Ned Kelly took place on April the 15th, 1878. Known as the Fitzpatrick Incident, it is sometimes seen as the catalyst that irrevocably put Ned and his brother on the path of no return as they became wanted suspected fugitives. Unfortunately, we cannot say with certainty what happened because we have two different versions of events, that of Constable Alexander Fitzpatrick and that of the Kelly family, and neither one is a particularly reliable source. Fitzpatrick travelled on that day to the Kelly household to take Dan into custody as there was an arrest warrant out on him for horse theft. According to the constable, he arrived at the house where he found Dan Kelly, his mother Ellen, and two associates named William Williamson and Bill Skillion. He agreed to allow Dan to finish dinner before taking him in, but while he was waiting, Ned appeared and restrained him. The bushranger shot Fitzpatrick in the arm while Ellen knocked him unconscious with a fire shovel. They later let him go after retrieving the bullet from his hand using a knife. The Kelly version is a bit different. They said Fitzpatrick came to the house drunk and without a warrant. Ned wasn't there at the time, and the constable made a pass at his sister, Kate Kelly. At that point, Dan and Fitzpatrick started fighting, and the constable pulled out his revolver. Right at that moment, Ned entered the home and helped his brother overpower the police officer who injured his arm in the scuffle. It was not established conclusively that Fitzpatrick's injury came from a gunshot. The doctor who inspected him also noted that the constable smelled of alcohol, although Fitzpatrick claims that he stopped for a drink on the way back to steady his nerves. He wasn't the most trustworthy witness, but the police accepted his evidence anyway, and arrest warrants were issued. Ned and Dan Kelly went on the run, while Ellen Williamson and Skillion were charged and convicted of being accessories to attempted murder. Public reaction of the time was very negative to the trial, particularly the sentencing of the elderly Ellen Kelly to hard labour. Even the Victoria police were unhappy with Fitzpatrick's actions, as the commissioner decried them as generally bad and discreditable to the force. However, they did generate plenty of sympathy for the Kelly brothers.
You know the worst part about boots? Putting them on and taking them off. Until now. Introducing hands-free sketch.
Shootout.
In hiding, Ned and Dan were joined by Joe Byrne and Steve Hart, and the group hoped to raise enough money to appeal Ellen Kelly's sentence. Like we said, a lot of locals were on their side, so they were tipped off in late October when the police discovered their whereabouts and dispatched an armed party to their location to take them down. The police group consisted of 4 men, Sergeant Kennedy and Constables Lonigan McIntyre and Scanlon. On October the 25th, 1878, they arrived and camped at Stringybark Creek. However, none of them were experienced bushmen like Ned Kelly. Knowing that they were out there somewhere, he found their horse tracks and followed them to their camp, where Kelly and his gang took them by surprise. What happened next is again a controversial and uncertain matter, as accounts differ, and some argue that the story has been embellished over the decades to portray Kelly in a more positive manner. Basically, it all hinges on whether or not the Kelly gang gunned down the officers in cold blood. When they entered the camp, only 2 policemen were there, Lonigan and McIntyre. McIntyre was quickly disarmed and surrendered peacefully, while Lonigan was shot and killed by Ned Kelly. Allegedly, he tried to run, but he and Ned had bad blood, so it's also possible that Kelly intended to kill him regardless. When Scanlon and Kennedy returned to the camp, they found McIntyre sitting on a log and the Kelly gang waiting in ambush. A shootout ensued where Scanlon was shot dead and Kennedy was mortally injured, crawling a few hundred feet before dying. During the chaos, McIntyre managed to jump on a horse and make a run for it. He reached civilization and informed everyone that the Kelly gang had just murdered 3 police officers. Whether or not the officers would have lived if they surrendered, we cannot say, but from that point on, the Kelly gang were officially declared outlaws by the governor of Victoria. Under the recently passed Felons Apprehension Act, they basically had no more rights. They could be shot on sight, even if they were captured alive.
Dang. Outlaws.
The Kelly gang were active for approximately 2 years, but they spent most of that
Only
time
2 years?
hiding in the Australian bush, relying on friendlies to provide them with food and lodging. The police knew this, and since they could not capture the Kelly gang, they decided to crack down hard on their sympathizers. Fortunately for the authorities, the aforementioned Felons Apprehension Act also allowed them to punish those who offered any aid, shelter, or sustenance to outlaws, so they were pretty much free to imprison anyone they felt were on the side of Ned Kelly. In one particularly egregious example, in January 1879, one Captain Standish rounded up 23 men who were believed to be either friends or sympathizers of the outlaws and imprisoned them for months without charge. If anything, such abuses of power only served to portray Ned Kelly in a more positive light, as more and more people began to see him as a man fighting against injustice. The Bushranger helped enhance this reputation by writing the so-called Geraldary letter, a 56-page, 8,300-word manifesto, where he decried the abuses of the police, whom he described as a parcel of big, ugly, fat-necked, wombat-headed, big-bellied, magpie-legged, narrow-hipped, claw-footed sons of Irish bailiff.
That boy was roasting him, bro. Big Billy. Yeah, Ned. Yeah. I like you, man. I do. I like Ned Kelly. That boy was roasting him, man.
English landlords, which is better known as the officers of justice or Victorian police, who some call honest gentlemen. In the letter, Kelly argued that he was forced into becoming an outlaw by circumstances outside of his control. He named Constable Fitzpatrick as the one who started all of this and called for justice not only for him, but for all the poor families of Australia who were subjugated by the tyrannism of the English yoke. During their time on the run, the Kelly gang did have moments when they behaved more like traditional outlaws as they robbed 2 banks. The first one in the town of Euroa took place on December the 10th, 1878, shortly after the shootout at Stringybark Creek. The gang needed money and supplies to go into hiding. First, they held up the nearby train station at Faithful's Creek so they could rest the horses, dress up in respectable clothing, and cut the telegraph lines. Everyone who came to investigate was taken hostage and placed inside a storeroom. Byrne stayed behind with the hostages while the other 3 went to Euroa Bank and cleaned it out. They then took the bank manager, Robert Scott, and his family back to the storeroom so they couldn't raise the alarm, and then they rode away, leaving everyone safe and uninjured. There are additional details to this story, such as the gang giving the hostages a horse-trick riding show before leaving, or Scott being so friendly with his robbers that they drank whiskey together after they emptied his safe. But it is hard to tell at this point if such things actually happened, or they are just more examples of colourful events added to boost the legend of Ned Kelly. The second bank robbery occurred a few months later on February the 10th, 1879 in Geraldary. The plan was similar, although this one was more ambitious in its execution. The night before, the gang descended upon the local police barracks, where they took the only 2 officers inside as hostages. The next day, they dressed up in police uniforms and managed to rob the bank without any violence. They also burnt a lot of mortgage documents and took their horses to the local blacksmith to get reshoed, putting the work on the police tab. This is also...
Bro, this guy's crazy. I thought Chopper Reed was crazy, but this guy's crazier. What? He did all that? Yo, I thought Chopper Reed was like crazy, but this guy...
It wouldn't be published in its entirety until 1930.
The Last Stand. Damn.
Following the 2 robberies, authorities stepped up their efforts to hunt down the Kelly gang even more. With contributions from banks, they increased the reward for their capture to £2,000 per head for a total of about £8,000, which is about 1.5 million Australian dollars in modern currency.
Wow.
They also brought in a native police unit from Queensland,
a lot of money,
which contained Aboriginal troopers who were more adept at tracking people in the bush. Ultimately, they were able to find the outlaws, but it has been speculated that their efforts were hampered at every turn by the Victoria Police, who didn't want to get upstaged by the Queenslanders. They were already deeply unpopular with the people of Victoria. Those who sympathised with Ned Kelly considered them to be corrupt and abusive. Those who didn't still regarded them as incompetent for being unable to capture the gang. The last thing they needed was the Queenslanders to do their job for them. In the end, it was the money that gave them the advantage. The Kelly gang may have been popular with the people, but it was inevitable that someone would ultimately choose funds over friendship. That someone was Aaron Sherritt.
Oh my God, there's always one of them. There's always this guy. Always a snitch, a snake. Can't stand people
close to Joe Byrne. He became an informant for the police, although some believed he was actually trying to act as a double agent. Even the authorities suspected this, but they found a way of making him useful regardless of his true loyalties. The police made sure that word spread around that Sherritt was working with them. They were hoping to entice the Kelly gang out of hiding, using Sherritt more as bait than as an informant. This actually worked. The gang felt betrayed by Sherritt, and Byrne in particular wanted him dead. On June the 6th, 1880, he and Dan Kelly travelled to Woolshed Creek, where Sherritt lived. There were 4 police officers inside the Sherritt home that night, so the gang needed a way of separating their target from the group. They kidnapped a neighbour and brought him to the front door of the Sherritt house while they lay in hiding. They made him call out for Sherritt, who recognised his neighbour's voice and answered the door without hesitation. At that point, Byrne popped out of the shadows and shot him through the head. This was the first part of their plan, as the Kelly gang were set on enacting their most ambitious and most violent ploy yet. They knew that the police inside Sherritt's home would send word of what had happened to Melbourne, who in turn would say,
nah, bro, they knew that this is like a movie. Is there a movie on this, bro? Because this is so good, bro. This is so good. This is so good. What the hell? They shot, no. Nah, Ned Kelly is my hero, man.
inside Sherritt's home would send word of what had happened to Melbourne, who in turn would send reinforcements by special train. The rail would pass through a city called Benalla, where
he's a rat,
and shot him through the head.
He's a rat.
Recognized his neighbor's voice and answered the door without hesitation. At that point, Byrne popped out of the shadows and shot him through the head. This was the first part of their plan, as the Kelly gang were set on enacting their most ambitious and most violent ploy yet. They knew that the police inside Sherritt's home would send word of what had happened to Melbourne, who in turn would send reinforcements by special train. The rail would pass through a city called Benalla, where undoubtedly more officers would join the hunt, and then through a town called Glenrowan. While Dan and Byrne dealt with Sherritt, Ned and Steve Hart travelled to Glenrowan. Their intention was to run the train off the track, kill any survivors, and then go on to Benalla, which, left without a police force, would have been easy pickings. To that end, Ned and Hart kidnapped 2 railway workers and forced them at gunpoint to damage the track over a steep ravine. Afterwards, they went inside the town, took the locals hostage, and packed them inside the Glenrowan Inn, waiting for the train to arrive from Benalla. This was all building up to one bloody confrontation, but the Kelly gang had one last memorable ace up their sleeves, one so unusual that the police didn't even believe it when they heard reports from the locals. Over the course of the previous months, the gang members had constructed homemade armor for themselves out of pieces of metal plow moldboards. They weighed almost 100 pounds each, and their iconic look, which was plastered over every newspaper in Australia, undoubtedly was instrumental in creating the legend of Ned Kelly. His armor today has a place of honor at the State Library of Victoria. Those of Dan and Hart are on display at the Victoria Police Museum, while Burns is in private hands. But back to the night in question. The Kelly gang had over 60 hostages at the Glenrowan Inn. They passed the time with music, dancing, games, and drinking. Everybody was seemingly having a good time, even perhaps too much of a good time. As he became convinced that he was surrounded by sympathizers, Ned let his guard down and allowed the local schoolmaster, a man named Thomas Curnow, to return home and go to sleep. Curnow was not only a sympathizer, but he had overheard the gang's plan of derailing the train. He went home, grabbed a candle and a red handkerchief, and went to the railway to find the spot where the tracks had been damaged. After locating it, he managed to signal the engine driver in time for him to stop the train derailing. The entire police force was alive and well and headed for the Glenrowan Inn. They surrounded the hotel, and the shooting started. The Kelly gang quickly saw that their plan had failed, but had no intention of surrendering. They put on their armor and fired back. Most of the hostages made it out safely. The women and children were released at the beginning, and most of the rest managed to sneak out the back during the chaos. 2 bystanders, both men, were caught in the gunfire and died. After sustaining a few minor injuries, the outlaws retreated further inside the hotel, except for Ned Kelly, who ran into the bush, intending to circle around and flank the police. Joe Byrne was the first to die. A bullet hit him in the thigh and severed his femoral artery, causing him to bleed out. Then came the most spectacular moment of the shootout, as Ned Kelly emerged out of the dark mist, clad in armor and guns blazing. The sight made the police think that they were fighting the devil.
This is cool. My boy said, nah, that's cool. Nah, this is crazy. Bro, if there's a movie on this, bro, somebody in a comment let me know, bro. Let me know. Yo, this is straight out of a movie for real. Oh my God. Nah, that's cool. That is cool. That is cool. That is cool, bro.
The sight made the police think that they were fighting the devil himself, and it took dark mist, clad in armor, and guns blazing. The sight made the police think that they were fighting the devil himself, and it took them minutes to finally understand what was happening. Eventually, they realized that Ned's legs were completely unprotected, so they aimed for those. Kelly took several shots before finally collapsing and surrendering. He was captured alive, but Dan Kelly and Steve Hart were still shooting from inside the hotel. By this point, all the hostages had been evacuated. The police had an artillery cannon coming in from Melbourne, and they intended to blow the entire hotel to smithereens. However, this took too long, so instead they burned it to the ground. Later, they found the charred bodies of Kelly and Hart inside, who apparently died of suicide by poison. And so the Kelly gang came to a bloody, fiery end. Only Ned Kelly lived following the Glenrowan Siege, but unsurprisingly, he was tried for his crimes, found guilty, and sentenced to death. He still had tons of supporters who campaigned for a reprieve, but their pleas went unheeded. Ned Kelly was hanged on November the 11th, 1880, at the Melbourne jail. According to some reports, his last words were, "Such is life." So I really hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please hit that thumbs up button below. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for watching.
Life. Oh, this is dope. This is dope. This is dope. Oh, this is dope. Easy. No pauses, man. Oh, this is so dope. This is so dope. This is so dope. Damn. I thought Chopper Reed was crazy until I saw this. Bro, this guy is crazier. And he's more of a hero, bro, in my opinion. And he had 2 snitches, bro. His friends. Both of them snitched on him, bro. Like, come on, bro. How can you snitch on your own friends because of money, bro? I cannot stand people who snitch on their friends for money. Family, friends, whoever it is, bro. Do not snitch on your family member or your friend because of money, bro. Money comes and goes, bro. True friendship stays forever. Family stays forever, bro. If them 2 friends would have snitched on him, who knows what the hell he would have done? He would have probably been alive and still doing his thing, bro. Bro, he didn't do nothing bad at all, bro. If we're being honest, he didn't do nothing bad. He was just living his life, just being himself. Hey, I love him. I love Ned Kelly, bro. This guy fought back against bullies, bro. Cause police, authorities, all of them are bullies, bro. They bully you all day, every day, bro. Bro, come on, man. But yeah, man, I just had to react to this, man. I had to show y'all this. I had to put some smile on your faces, man. Make y'all laugh a little bit, man. There's one life to live. Stay safe out there, man. Drink water, eat healthy, and mind your business, man. I love y'all. But please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel, man. Show your boy some love. Help grow the channel. I love y'all. Stay safe. Boom. Let's go.